Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We have Richard with us, who is the founder of Provoke.Agency, and they send millions of emails every month and get 5 to 7% reply rates. They have been doing this for 5 plus years for multiple clients. So they are the perfect people to understand what it takes for your cold emails to scale and get booked with meetings. So Provoke is the premier agency for getting B2B appointment scheduled for your business. So thank you, Richard, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So Richard, today we'll be trying to grasp all the knowledge you have and try to help people who are new at cold email with that.
Sure. As long as you tell
Okay.
your listeners with an asterisk of discretion that the knowledge, at least in our space and the cold outreach space, is constantly changing. So you could be listening to a podcast 3 months ago, and unfortunately, that information is no longer relevant. So it obviously goes with a word of caution.
Absolutely. So in this ever-changing industry, let's see what's working today.
Yes, that's a great way to frame it.
Yeah. Awesome. So Richard, can you start by telling us a bit about your agency and what kind of clients do you typically serve with cold
Sure.
email outreach?
Certainly. So I've been doing this for the last 5 years. I actually stumbled across Lemlist like 5 years ago, and I didn't even realize you couldn't send all the emails in one shot. I thought it was like another like MailChimp or something like that. I really had no idea what the whole art of sequencing was. And lo and behold, I started playing around with it, and I started to realize the power of what it means to send personalized emails. Back in those days, you could do cool things with personalization and pictures and coffee mugs and all different types of links. It was so easy to book meetings with clients because it was still very new. Then COVID came around. It was even easier. And obviously today there's some new challenges, but I basically went after industries that had difficulty in the digital world, industries that had complex sales processes, that had, products or services that were well above $5,000 that required face-to-face or at least proper Zoom meeting or a Microsoft Teams meeting with multiple steps. So that's what I call a complex sales process. It's not something you're going to buy off of a website. Cold email doesn't necessarily work well for that. And one of the industries that worked really well was the lighting industry. So I
Right.
worked with a lot of lighting companies.
Interesting. So, Richard, you mentioned that a few years ago, like almost 5 years ago, you started off with Lemlist. So, I have a question over there. What I have seen as founder of SalesLink myself, most people who are just starting off cold email, whether they use Lemlist, SalesLink, or any other tool for that matter, they are unable to get results as such, and they soon start saying cold email doesn't work. I hope that you would have also experienced this with other people, that they say, oh, Lemlist as a software looks great, or SalesBlink as a software looks great, but it doesn't really work. I've sent thousands of emails and I'm getting no replies, no sales. So what do you think, Richard, you did right, which most other people are doing wrong even today?
Great question. Well, the reality is because I'm an agency, this was my bread and butter. This was my company, right? So it's like between that and somebody who's trying out cold email and who experiences failure, it's very easy for them to throw in the towel, okay? And just rely on our previous channels or say, you know what, we'll just keep, trying to get referrals or we'll do more paid ads or whatever it may be. But when you're an agency, you have to make it work. So the first campaigns that I was doing was obviously for Provoke, trying to see how I could refine my messaging and make sure I'm kind of like applying the best practices. And then when you start doing this for different types of clients, you have clients in certain industries that have fantastic results, and clients in other industries that have less fantastic results, and sometimes campaigns bomb. But I always try to look at every single campaign like a scientific project. Like, what's happening over here? Do I have reaction? Am I getting clicks? Am I getting opens? The worst for me was when a campaign was like silent, where you don't have any reaction. That's kind of like when you really bombed. But, when people say cold email doesn't work, it's like, well, how long have you been at this? How many emails have you tried? I've spoken to certain clients that sometimes were referred to me by Lemlist, and they, cold email doesn't work. We sent 500 emails. We got no replies. Okay. It's really a small sample. So obviously, there's a lot of variables that go into this.
So the takeaway is that cold email works. You just have to keep at it, right? Don't just send 500 emails, send 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 emails with obviously different copies, different subject line, try adding images, try removing images. Mostly don't add any links, right? Ever, but yeah, keep trying and it should work out. So, Richard, what do you say if someone has to start cold outreach today? How can they start off? So they sign up for a software. What next? What is the next step that they should do?
I think they really have to do a lot of learning. I think this is just a great follow-up question to your original assessment that like it's not just like keep at it. You have to actually follow some pretty good influencers and some people that are sharing proper knowledge in the marketplace because it's constantly changing. As you mentioned, like today I don't use any links in my emails. I don't use any images because I know I'm not going to get delivery. That wasn't the case 2, 3 years ago, where you could do very cool personalization things where most people didn't even catch on that it was automated. Okay. Today, the market is flooded. So if you're going to jump into cold email, do your research, follow a couple of good gurus that are
Can
really
you share names of some of these gurus so that our listeners can go
sure.
ahead and
I
follow them?
mean, yeah, Nick Abrahams is doing fantastic sharing. He does a lot of great sharing. I follow him. There's Eric, who's like a clay genius. I forgot his last name. It's a complicated last name. There's a number of them. There's a number of like cold email outreach experts, and they actually share what works. They share their knowledge. That's the first place you got to start. The second place is whatever software you end up choosing, read what the software um, tool is recommending in terms of best practice. Don't fall into the trap of just wanting to send more, or don't take shortcuts because you're really hungry for opportunities, because that will lead you towards an assessment that cold email doesn't work.
Ideally, don't send more when you're just starting off. Focus more on the copy. What should be the first focus when someone is just
Learning.
starting the cold email?
The first focus should be learning. It should be really learning and listening to what experts are saying in terms of best practices. Because there's a number of specific email marketing best practices. For example, how many emails you should be sending, how many email domains you should buy, how does the warm-up process work? Okay. Should I be putting links in my email? How long should my copy be? What's the angle of my copy? How do I define my proper ICP, my proper target? All of that needs to be done before you actually press launch on a campaign. I think a lot of companies today, depending on their stage, it's like they really want opportunities, they want them quick, and they lack the patience or the know-how to properly learn.
Awesome. So someone starts learning today. After how long do you think they should start seeing results, meetings booked, sales closes?
I think if you gave yourself a good 2, 3 week ramp up, that should be sufficient to learning the basics of cold email. And then when you implement, of course, what you've learned, a warm up period usually is like 2 to 3 weeks for email domains. And, give yourself a week, I think, for copy creation. You can bounce off your copy off a number of different communities that have online. And once you do that, then of course you could start the outreach campaign with small numbers and start to take a look at your reply rates. I mean, today I don't even track open rates or click rates because that's another issue around deliverability.
So what do you think, Richard? Let's say someone has started a cold outreach sequence. How many follow-ups should they have in the sequence?
It's a good
Or how
question.
many are you doing these days?
I used to do 7. Today I do like 3 or 4 max.
Any particular reason for reducing the number of follow-ups over the years?
Yeah, I found that the majority of positive responses came in the first 2.
Interesting insight.
Yeah. And the call to action as well has also changed. It used to be about booking for a meeting. And now I tend to look at outreach campaigns as conversation starters, providing a certain value. It's really about starting the conversation and then, connecting with them on LinkedIn and starting to build more, let's call it authority and respect around that before asking somebody to spend time with you.
Interesting. And even we have observed recently that if more follow-ups are being sent, the chances of the follow-up emails being marked as spam by your lead is higher. So it
Yeah.
doesn't get you any better results. Rather, it ruins your sending reputation because you're just blasting them off, sending emails again and again. So they just prefer to, you send them 7 or 10, but they think you might send them 100 more.
Right.
So they just mark you as a spam email.
Right.
So, Richard, what are some angles that have been working for you guys or for your clients? that you can share of today?
Yeah, I mean, angles in terms of copy,
Yeah, angles
super
in
short
which.
email, super short emails that have signals and intent. What that means is really trying to identify, obviously, the target market, but more specifically, identifying what signals or intent that they leave on the internet that we can pick up on, and then letting them know that we're aware of that signal or intent.
Can you give
And
some examples of these
yeah,
signals and intents?
yeah. Okay. A company is expanding. A company is hiring. A company is growing. A company is downsizing. This is all information that companies actually share, whether on LinkedIn, whether in a PR report, whatever it may be. There are tools today such as Clay, such as Data Bar, such as Curation that allow you to basically identify this type of information. When you put that in a cold email and then you provide value, like, hey, notice that company XYZ is hiring an SDR, mind if mind if I share with you XYZ? And it's like something of valuable to them, something of value to them, then the chances of responding yes to that email is very, very high. And
Awesome. So
yeah, yeah, it's
awesome.
pretty much
So
it.
so check out insights and signals online. I think there are a lot of tools also these days which help you to find leads who are hiring for a specific role or who are just growing.
Right,
Apollo is one that does that.
correct,
I'm familiar with them. So and then there are a bunch more. There's built with which can help with what technologies are being used as a signal. Once we have that, we can maybe send them an email with an angle. So since you're scaling your SDR team, we have this layout, let's say, for closing more deals or something like that in the next 6 months or whatever, right? An offer. And if they are interested in it, they would reply a yes to get that, free playbook or your document or your video or
correct,
whatever.
correct.
So post that, Richard, how do we get from that to getting a call book?
It's a great,
What is the rate from positive reply when you are sharing a video or a document or a playbook? What is the rate from that reply to uh, a meeting scheduled? Because what we have seen in the industry is that a lot of times people just say yes because they want to see what we have to offer, or as in what are our ideas. They might try to implement it themselves, they might just skip it, but not necessarily they will come on a call for that. So what do you think, and what are the rates that you have seen regarding this?
yeah, it's a good question. So there's no doubt that before, when we used to ask for the meeting directly, that was kind of like the easiest way to get them on. The draw of that is that sometimes you spend a lot of time with people that were really not qualified. Okay. So now you kind of try to an indirect way just to get an easy yes. So yeah, you're going to get some tire kickers. Okay. But the reality is that when you provide that particular value that they're interested in, it does become easier to get them into a call, okay, because they've already said that yes. So in my particular case, what I try to do is I'm always taking a multi-channel approach. I'm not only just doing cold email. I'm also doing LinkedIn connections with people who essentially received, or not received, but responded positively to my cold outreach. Okay, and I look at their LinkedIn profile and I have a good feel if they're going to be a good fit for me, and I'll comment on some of their posts and I'll like some of their posts. And so it's no longer a quantity game. It's a tough pill to swallow for people that were used to this and that were sending, a ton of just really vague type of emails or LinkedIn connections. So that we had to definitely adapt, but it's well worth.
Interesting. Right. So what kind of conversion rates can someone expect from, let's say they got 10 replies from the lead to see the, playbook video or
Mm,
whatever. So
mm.
what kind of conversion from those 10 can someone expect in general will convert in a appointment or a meeting?
It's a tough question. It really varies per industry. In the lead gen industry, when we do this
Yeah.
to different types of industries, it also fluctuates. Okay. Sometimes I'll do a reply to certain opportunities where if they book a call with me, I'll give them a thousand contact lists just because they booked a call with me. And it's easy for me to do that, build something on Sales Navigator. And I mean, you'd be surprised just the fact that you take the time to show somebody how you can help them cater to their specific target. A lot of companies still struggle with this. You ask them, for example, like, So, okay, so what industry? Okay, I'll tell you the industry. And who are the titles? They give you like 5 different types of titles, which require 5 different types of messaging. And you recognize that they also have difficulty identifying their target. So that's very, very valuable for them. A lot of times when the client feels that they can trust you, that you're credible, that you've worked with other companies in their industry, and you're giving them something of value, then they're more likely to do business with you. There's no doubt.
That is a very interesting point, that apart from the offer and the thing that we are offering, credibility, social proof, and other things are also very important. So, how do, Richard, you incorporate these things in a cold email? Because it has to be short. And I
Yeah.
believe that in the follow up email only, you would be creating more social proof, more trust, maybe also sharing case studies. So, how do
Yeah.
you go about it?
Well, yeah, definitely the case studies is important. I like to mention companies that I've worked with before that my prospects certainly know. It could be some of their competitors. I never mix like multiple industries together. Okay. When I'm doing outreach, always keep it industry focused. I talk about the problem of the industry. I make sure to use words that are relevant in that industry the way my prospects would look at them, not the way I think they should look at them. I often employ like a story brand methodology from Donald Miller. Again, I just try to make it super, super short, but it really is about presenting a solution to a particular problem. Okay. So you have to find what the problem is. And almost all industries face time and money as a problem, okay? Time and cost, if you will. If you could push on those 2 buttons and you have a solution for that, then they're going to pay attention.
Interesting. So, you're saying one of the angles could be you can save costs and do this XYZ, or you can save time instead of doing it in 6 months or 12 months. If you use this product service, or if it's your client's product or service, you can get it done in like 1 month. That is a very interesting angle to work with for sure. What kind of CTAs, Richard, are you seeing these days to work?
CTAs,
Yeah, like in the
call,
end
call,
there's a call to action. Yeah.
call to action. Well, we discussed that, but the call to action, depending on, well, I'm not putting any links like book a call, but I will put things like worth a chat, question mark. Okay. Mind if I send a case study? Mind if I send you a personalized video? That certainly works. Mind if we connect on LinkedIn? Super easy call to actions, low friction call to actions. Okay. Things where it's a no brainer to say yes. Then once you have that yes, you have to work it. You have to work that opportunity. And that's what I'm really trying to explain to a lot of my clients these days is that, I don't position myself as a lead gen agency, more of a growth agency. I'm here to help you guys grow. And to help you guys grow, we have to look at a multi-channel approach. Okay. Because as long as you do like this whole lead gen thing and the whole booking thing, you'll be as good as your last lead. When in reality, the sales process is quite complex. There's a lot of different points in what ultimately gets a sale.
And while sending cold emails, as you mentioned that we cannot add any links, any images, and the email has to be very short. So my first question, and I have a follow-up question to this. My first question is, how many words or lines do you recommend we send in an email today?
Sentences shouldn't have more than 14 words, in my opinion. I think it should be about 120 words max.
120 words, and one sentence, only 4 words.
14.
14, okay.
Yeah.
14 words.
Yeah. No,
Interesting.
4 words. 4 words, you're not going to have much to
Yeah, that's a,
really
yeah,
explain over there. But it's
that-
like it's really just about making sure that you're talking to the right audience. It's very hard to do that when you have a huge list and
I know.
you're trying to handle multiple industries with that list.
Interesting. And so in these 120, 130 words, how do we personalize the email?
So good
What
question.
works today?
Mentioning their industry is always a good place. Could use company name. You should be using syntax things that allow you to change like, hey, hi, that type of thing. That's good for deliverability. Quotes at the bottom, very, very important. Changing quotes brings personality. Quote like inspirational quotes. I've used that before. That's helped deliverability. But like in
Interesting. So
terms
you just put it after the
like
signature, maybe?
yeah, and then changing quotes that
Interesting.
helps. But in terms of like personalization, I will try to get some piece of news or some sort of signal or intent, as we discussed earlier, that I know is very specific about that company. Okay, most organizations know that it's automated by now. Okay, but they are impressed when it's well done. It's got to
I
be
would
well.
I would phrase it that they are impressed when they are doubtful that okay, is it really a cold email or maybe someone has actually put in the effort. So
Yeah,
you don't have to make them trust that it is you, even if you make them doubt that this person might have done the research. So that would work great. Awesome. So this was about personalizing, and then so personalize using industry, company name, using syntax as the with quotes at the end of the email. Motivation quotes sounds like a great idea for deliverability also, and just to show them, some kind of your ideology or proof that you what you believe and how you can help them. It just elevates the whole tone of the email,
yeah, agreed.
right? Interesting. So, coming to a bit of math, Richard, how many emails should someone send to get, let's say, 10 appointment booked meeting? I know that this is very dependent on the industry, the time of the year, but what would you say on average?
Between 5 to 10,000 contacts.
Okay. With 5 to 10,000 contacts, you should have 10 appointments or
If you don't
meetings
have 10,
scheduled.
if you don't have 10 appointments after that, you're doing something wrong.
So maybe
Maybe
it's
the
your
audience
list.
is wrong. Maybe the messaging is wrong. Maybe the email technical setup stuff is wrong. Tracking the
Right.
DMARC, all the technical stuff. But I mean, yeah, again, it depends what your call to action is. So if you're trying to get meetings, specific meetings, I would do that maybe in like later sequences. I'm more of a fan of getting quick yeses in the beginning and then building that up to an eventually.
So on that point, let's say someone gives us a quick yes on the video that we have sent or something, and then they are just not responding anymore. So what are some ways to get their attention back?
Well, when somebody gives me a yes and I provide whatever I said I was going to provide, I make sure I connect with them on LinkedIn, number one. Okay. Then I'm following them for a couple of weeks. Okay. And then I will do follow up. And of course, it happens occasionally that people ghost you. They're just no longer responsive. And some of them you just have to accept that's a lost lead. It is what it is. And some of them will continue to engage with you and eventually book you. And by then it's much more warmed up. So, and they've already received something of value of you. So I find now that that's probably the better way to go about this.
I understand that the angle that we are targeting in our copies is very much dependent on the industry and signals and so on of the leads. Right? So, what are some tools that you guys have been using for leads these days?
So Clay is one of them in terms of enrichment. Data bar is another one. Curation is a good one. Obviously Clay is the most advanced in all this because they have a lot of the APIs and I think for the average user, it's still pretty complex. I like the way Curation has kind of used AI to at least allow you to explain what you're looking for. I think it's a lot easier for the end user. And then, of course, what else in terms of enrichment, it always depends the client that you're trying to deal with. But a lot of times when I'm doing a strategy session with a client, I'm trying to identify very, very early on what are their signals and intent to either purchase the product or the service that they're trying to sell. And depending how difficult that is to identify, that's where I will use some of those tools. Sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes it's pretty clear you have something that can be applicable to almost every single company.
I see. So, what do you think some of the common automation pitfalls that people fall into? Like they just think that let's sign up for a tool like SalesBlink, which can automate the outreach for us. And then obviously it doesn't work for them. So, what are the common things people are doing wrong when just starting off?
They probably skipped the whole information part about the learning, the new
Yeah.
tool. Okay. How do I upload the list? Let me just, they don't do the technical setup. And they are like so stuck in their head that they want to write the email the way they think it should be written. It's like they're unwilling. And that's why agencies exist, because we're really the guinea pigs of this whole industry. We've tried so many different approaches and through trial and error, we finally understood this is the best way to do it. So, but the end user that they're trying to do it on their own are convinced that they have to be saying this word or that word. Whereas reality, we know that there are keywords that you should not be using. You put stuff like free and you put things like other like spammy words. It's just going to ruin the email. You know what I mean? Or if the email is just way too long, it's not going to work.
Nice. So I think the way I would sum up your answer is that people are more focused on learning a tool like, let's say, SalesBlink, Lemlist, or Apollo, instead of learning the cold outreach part, it's just like saying you are learning to use a pen instead of making a drawing. So that's the art part of it that you should know. Then you can use any pen to make your drawing.
I think
But
that's a great, yeah, it's a good.
right, so you should know how to draw, and then you can use any pen. Just like that, you should know, like Richard over here has a great experience, that you should know how to send emails and cold emails, what works, what doesn't work, and then you can use any tool. All these are just tools. So that's how I see. And what are your thoughts, Richard, on scaling? So I'll just go, one by one. So how many uh, email addresses to create per domain?
For new clients, I typically start with 5 domains and 3 email. So about 15. Yeah, depending on the market size, I might move that up.
Okay, and how many emails to be sent per email address?
35 is a good number, safe. You could slowly increase it to 40, 50 when the domain is strong.
What's the
that's
number beyond which one should never go?
I don't send more than 50 per email box.
Per email inbox. That's great. So we begin with 5 domains. We have 15 email addresses. With each email address, we send about 35 to start with. And over a period of time, maybe after 1 or 2 months, if everything looks good, scale it up to 50.
That's right.
Right. Interesting. Any preferred days on which cold emails or times on which cold email has worked better?
I never paid attention to that. I even sent on Sundays sometimes for clients.
Okay. Have you seen have you seen any difference in the reply rates on, let's say, emails sent on Sunday or some emails that have been sent on a Wednesday?
Yeah, of course you're going to get less, but like I only really care about the yeses. So if I get a yes on a Sunday, it's great. In fact, so many people may not do it. The ones that do it and that get responses at the end, they benefit from, so it's always about cutting through the noise. So I never really paid attention. There might be a fantastic theory out there about when to send it exactly, but at the end of the day, it's like a lot of these tools have different scheduling options and how many minutes you want to, spread between the messages.
Richard, you're currently focused on any particular one region like Canada or US, or are you sending cold emails almost all across the English speaking world?
Most of our business is US, Canada, but we operate globally. I have a number of clients in Australia and the Middle East as well. There are still some, interesting countries that cold email is really, it's very good. It works very well over there. It's, but obviously the North America has been inundated, I think, with a lot of, put it nicely, spammy cold email that makes everybody kind of cringe, kind of like these, I get them maybe 3 or 4 times a day. Can you handle, what is it like? Can you handle 10 to 12 new clients a month or something like that? And kind of like these guaranteed, like these offers. I think that's starting to get super old and tired. And when that happens, those offers are going to start to change.
Interesting. So, Richard, what would you say when launching global campaigns? Which are the countries most likely to buy, from a cold email or reply to a cold email? Have you seen any stats on that or anything on top of your head?
Not really, but I'm going to assume North America is probably still the best. US and Canada is probably the best place to do it because I think they're a lot more used to it. But there are certain countries that where you do it, if you do it, even in English, you're going to get some strong responses.
Over, let's say, in USA, which cities do you think have most, business activity where people would actually reply and end up?
I don't have that data, not off the head, at least.
No worries. That's great. So my last question, Richard, would be that where do you see cold email going in the next few years, as we are seeing that ChatGPT and other AI tools are also here? So how can agencies like Provoke can leverage that, and how will the landscape change overall? What are your thoughts on that?
This is, I really don't know, but we're in the business of capturing people's attention. That business will always be in business. So today we're using cold emails. I mean, tomorrow we'll do something else. I'm not really concerned about that. I've never been concerned about that. Okay. Because once you understand the principles of how to cut through the noise, you can just do it with any other tool. I mean, today Twitter outreach is actually working quite well. Okay, it's where cold email was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's like you just got to be out on the lookout. You got to be quick to adapt to change, flexible, and if you have those characteristics, you're going to succeed.
Interesting. Any impacts of ChatGPT and AI overall that you have seen in
Sure.
cold emails as
Yeah,
of
I
now?
don't hire copywriters anymore. I don't need to hire copywriters. In the beginning of my agency, I had a bunch of different copywriters that understood the methodology that I wanted.
Uh-huh.
ChatGPT is just completely replaced that.
Okay. And you personally have seen for yourself and your clients great results with copies written by ChatGPT?
Yes, but always modified with a human touch after. But yeah,
Yeah.
what ChatGPT can
So
put
the
out if you train the prompt correctly is incredible.
Yeah. So when using AI for sending cold emails, first is use a good lengthy prompt to
Yeah,
ensure that your email is crisp. Then edit it to add a human touch, ensure that it doesn't look like written by
yeah,
ChatGPT. And
yeah,
then once you paste it on your cold email outreach software, then you should actually personalize it with all the tricks that we just discussed, like industry name,
yeah,
company name,
yeah.
motivational quote can work, and so on. So that's really interesting. Awesome. So, Richard, thank you very much for
You're very
joining us today.
welcome.
It has
You're
been a
very welcome.
pleasure talking to you and gaining all the insights from your knowledge. Hope that for all our listeners who have sticked up till this point, they should have been enriched and they should go ahead and start their outreach as soon as possible.
Thanks so much. Take
Awesome.
care.
Thank you, Richard. You too. Take care.